Okay, so we're back. This is part 4. I'm going to show you what I did. Okay, I'm back inside just so you're not a little confused here, but our neighbors got to be really loud and that just wasn't going to work anymore. Okay, so the back of the cap, if you remember from the pattern, in the pattern when I showed you, this portion right here, this hem, this part is open. It also helps you with the fitting of the cap to make it custom to your head. So this is the inside seam. It's been felled down, and then you have the hem that's been tacked down with a really quick straight stitch. Okay, now I have this really long, ridiculously long piece of linen. Mine is 64 inches long. I have felled attached. I've attached it together to make it long enough, and it's felled down. So you find the center of your cap, which ironically, look at that, it's right in the middle of your seam. Okay? You turn it where the outside, the part that shows that when I put the embroidery on, the embroidery is going to be on this side. So you take the outside and you match it to the outside of your felled seam. So you want not the part that shows the two stitches, the stitch that holds it together in the felled side, but you want to right sides together, okay? Does that make any sense? Right sides together. And you want to sew it down to the cap like this, okay? Now, this is where you can, I have on many occasions use the sewing machine to do this, which I might do just now because I don't really want to fiddle with it otherwise. And you pin it. I pin it on one side because that's the side I'm going to run through the sewing machine. Now your seam allowance on this piece is going to be quite a bit wider, and the reason it's wider is you want a foundation of attachment to your cap that you can do some embroidery on. I do a lot of embroidery on my Brighid caps. Well, not a lot, but a fair amount. Okay, but before we pin all that down, we have to hem or do the gather on the bottom of our cap, and that is this part right here. So this is the gather. Now, I do not do a religious gather, as in I don't measure my gather hardcore. I go up about a half an inch from the mark, and I do about a half inch all the way down, just an in and out gather. If you see, it's pretty quick. It's not really precise. It doesn't have to be really precise. You just need to make sure you have enough of the in and out straight stitch that you get a nice, fairly even gather. And the train is coming through, I apologize. Okay, so it gathers down to about, I like mine to be fairly small because I actually have a fairly small head. So I'm gonna gather this one down probably about an inch. And then you take your thread and you anchor it because you have a knot on the other end, so it's not going to come undone. And I do 3 or 4 stitches that way. And I put another knot in it. And unlike the finishing stitches that you don't want to show your knots, this is all going to be inside the headband. So you don't really have to worry about that. Okay, find your other mark. Go in about a half inch there, and you want to be fairly consistent all the way around the edge of making sure you're a half inch. Again, it doesn't have to be like surgically straight. If you want to draw a line and follow the line, you can do that. I don't think I ever have. I just eyeball it. Everybody's at a different skill level. Not a big deal. I'm more concerned about making sure I have a pretty good gather there. Now if you notice, I come out right here on the very end of that fold. That makes my anchoring so much easier. And then I kind of eyeball it, make sure it's about the same as the other one. And then I anchor it. Now, if it's a tighter gather, it's going to want to slip on you, so you just anchor it with your finger really tight so that you can get a couple of those whip stitches in so it doesn't go anywhere on you. Because the whole point is you don't want it to ungather as you're working on it. Because that would just irritate you, right? Okay. And snip. Okay, so I have my gathered pieces. See, they're gathered like that. And I'm going to finish pinning this. Okay. Remember, you're pinning right sides together. My threads are all over the place here. Okay, it's a curve, so you lay it on the curve. Just follow the curve of the cap. And you want to make sure that when you sew your cap to it, or your band to your cap, that you're making sure you stitch down this gathered piece in the back. You have to cover this. This is the finish work. This cap is such a simple design. Everything that you do, if you just be straight up about it, you're going to do your finish work your first time around, and then all you have to do is your embellishments if you choose to. You don't even have to. I have had a couple over time that I didn't even bother to embellish. Okay, so that is neatly pinned. I'm actually going to run it through the sewing machine, and then I will come back after I have prepped it to do the final fold over. But as you can see, we're starting to really get a cap shape and the back. And I will be back in a little bit.